Hello, my name is Russ Timpson. I'm the founder of the Tall Building Fire Safety Network. What you're about to see is a video from our 2025 Tall Building Fire Safety Conference. You can find more other great videos on tall building fire safety on our YouTube channel, and there are many more presentations on our website, www.tallbuildingfiresafety. If you find our videos and presentations useful, please like and subscribe us on our YouTube channel. Halfway through the video, you're going to see details of our 2026 conference, which will take place in May in London. We have a fantastic program, and we also have a separate high-rise firefighting masterclass with Brent Brooks and special guests from around the world. There are also details of our 5-day intensive tall building fire safety management course, which will be running in London throughout 2026, but also in the Mediterranean, in Cyprus and in Malta. This is an ideal course for anybody who's dealing with fire safety matters in tall and complex buildings. So I hope you find these videos useful. And as we say in the Tall Building Fire Safety Network, go high and go well. Thanks.
I'm following those two very digital presentations. This is very analog.
Well, I mean, you've mentioned the golden thread, but I think
I suppose when I was sitting down thinking about this, I tried to come up with as a sort of structure for this little bit from me, is to look at four big questions. Are smoke hoods needed? What are the risks if we use smoke hoods? And if we say they are needed, which is the best type? So question one, are smoke hoods needed? So just a straw poll in the room. Put your hands up if you think smoke hoods for resident evacuation is a good idea. About a third of the room. Anybody think it's a really bad idea? Few people putting their hands up. Let's ask that question, are they needed? 3 bits of evidence from me to try and draw out that conversation. We're going to look at a case study in a moment, and then I'm going to look at a diagram that I drew post-Grenfell Tower, and then I'm going to take the words of a good mate of mine, Andy Kane. Bearing in mind what Ben has just said, I remember going to FDIC in America, FDIC Fire Department Instructors Conference, so it's huge. There's 40,000 firefighters descend on a city in the US, and it's if you've ever been a firefighter, it's kind of one of those things you should go to. But I remember distinctly going to the high-rise bit, and the fire chief from Las Vegas stood up and said, when we go to fires in Las Vegas, tall building fires, our starting proposition is that nothing in the building will work. No system in the building, that's our starting proposition. If they do work, then that's a bonus. So, let me give you a bit about this case study. This high-rise building is in Australia. This is Australia's tallest building. This is a residential building. And so that the residents don't have to carry the refuse down, there's a refuse chute. Quite common in tall buildings to have a refuse chute running the whole height of the building, going down to a refuse collection area at the bottom where there'll be a bin. Now, obviously, if there's any burning debris put in that, there's a fusible link and a hatch will come across and will seal off the shaft, and then the fire can be dealt with. The fusible link didn't work. So we have a fire in a bin. The fire is now going up the refuse chute, and around each of the hopper doors, as they're called on a refuse chute, there's a rubber seal to keep it waterproof, because people put liquids and bits and pieces in. There's a rubber seal. So what happened was the fire went up the shaft, and although it wasn't a very hot fire, it started to combust all of those rubber seals. So within 10 to 15 minutes, we've now got smoke emerging on every floor in the building. Taking the comments earlier on, smoke control companies, people who design, that's not what they design for. This is a totally left field fire that's occurred in this building. So we've now got fire emerging on every floor.
Australia's tallest tower, Q, fire outbreak on a lower level.
Smoke-filled hallways forcing hundreds of residents to take the stairs to escape the more than 300-metre tall building.
A frightening sight, sound and smell to wake up to. Hallways filled with smoke in Australia's tallest tower, Q1, in the heart of surfers' paradise.
You can't breathe.
It triggered an emergency evacuation of immense proportions.
There's too much smoke, sorry.
Q1 is 322 metres tall, a whopping 78 floors. With the lifts out, hundreds of residents took to the stairs.
I was in bed and my dad ran in and he's like, quick, get up, there's smoke.
Very quickly the whole unit filled up with smoke.
Residents eventually finding safety and catching their breath out on the street.
I guess it's a little scary.
We had to walk down 53 flights of stairs.
So you've got a simultaneous evacuation of a 312-metre building and everybody leaving, coming onto those staircases. And as a fire engineer, when we design tall buildings, normally we're going to design that building for a phased evacuation if it's a commercial building. If it's a stay-put building, then you may have concluded in the past that a single staircase is fine because you're going to stay in the building. We know now from fire data that we've got, certainly from London Fire Brigade, people are not staying in the building, they're leaving. We have what I would call a social media-induced simultaneous evacuation, because everybody in that building now has got a WhatsApp group or they've got a Facebook group. And they're going to tell the other people in the building, there's a fire in the building, I'm leaving, I'm not staying, I can remember Grenfell, I'm leaving. So, these fires, which go outside of normal design parameters, can occur. And there's an example, this is a recent one of that fire occurring where it's not going to be limited to a compartment or a box. It's very quickly going to go through the whole building. And this is a low energy, we're not talking about lots of flames here, we're talking about low energy, but it's managed to get the rubber seals on every floor to combust and then fill the building with smoke. So this is the diagram that I developed. So what this is for me is to try and graphically explain my frustration when we have in the past stuck to this dogma when we're talking about stay put, remain in place. Or in the past, I remember, this is prior to Grenfell, high rise does not mean high risk. I don't know if any ever heard that. I remember going to a London Fire Brigade seminar led by the Chief Fire Officer, Rod Dobson, and it was entitled, High Rise Does Not Mean High Risk. What are we now calling high buildings in this country? HRBs, high risk buildings. So if you can see on here, what I've tried to plot here is against a sort of arbitrary fire safety status of a building. And the blue line C is really what codes and standards would represent in that building if you fully complied with them. The green line B is really what the insurers want, which they want a higher standard of safety. They're not necessarily interested in people, they're interested in the building and the asset value. And then the yellow line at the top is perhaps what some of the occupants of the building actually think the building is safe. I have to tell you, somebody that's been doing this for more years than I wish to care to mention, that the red line is the reality line, in my experience. I do the external wall surveys, the 9980 assessment reports, and what a pile of poo I've looked at over the last 4 or 5 years. Absolutely catastrophic indictment on the construction industry from what I've seen. Now, I'm not making a sweeping, I can only tell you what I've seen. And it's bad. It's bad. And I think the red line represents, and certainly when that dip you see on the red line there, that is when that building then gets changed or refurbished or change of use. The fire safety status goes down. Now, if that blue line is what you're basing stay put on, then I hope that this is getting across to you the point that actually stay put, I think, in some of these buildings is not valid. Because all those assumptions you've made about why people are going to stay in that box, I think potentially are flawed. And we can sort of Canute-like, stand on the beach and demand that the waves don't come in. There are people in the fire industry who will stick to that blue line and say, stay put is okay, it works. And I would challenge that notion based on the evidence that I've seen as a practicing fire engineer now for 25, 30 years. But Put that to one side, surfers paradise, mind the gap. We're talking about smoke hoods. I run a training course called the Tall Building Fire Safety Management course. It's a 5-day course trying to raise the general level of competency of fire safety managers in buildings. These are not fire safety experts. These are people that are general managers, security managers, engineering managers inside tall buildings. And it's true to say that some of them have a very, very rudimentary knowledge of the fire strategies in their building. And on a Friday, I would normally have either a serving or an ex-serving firefighter come and talk about firefighting in tall buildings. And for the last 4 or 5 years, that's been a guy called Andy Kane, who was a borough commander and attended the Grenfell fire. This is Andy. He's the firefighter there in the white helmet. There's so much burning debris falling off Grenfell Tower that they had to employ, the police had to go and get their riot shields because of the amount of debris falling off the building. And Andy also says a funny story. He said the one police officer, he's 6'4", the one police officer he picked to try and help him get near the building was about 5'4". So you can see there he's crouching down. Andy's subsequently retired from the fire service, but he's absolutely clear. And he said if we had had smoke hoods at Grenfell Tower, we would have saved a lot more lives. So I'm just repeating what he said. They're being used a lot now in certainly London Fire Brigade and around the country. Those brigades that have adopted them, they are using them, and I'm told that they are being used and they are successful. If I'd have mentioned this 10 years ago or brought this subject up at fire engineering, I would have been drummed out as a heretic because they just said that's completely unnecessary. If we design the building, if we equip the building, we build it, we commission it, there should be no need for these things. But I take you back to my diagram that I mentioned earlier on. So, is there a need? I think there is a need at the moment, and certainly that's being borne out by the use of these, certainly for what I'm being told from London Fire Brigade. So what are the risks of using smoke hoods? Well, we can obviously create fear and paranoia amongst the residents of these buildings. If we start telling people that they need to have a smoke hood, then obviously we don't obviously want to raise unnecessary fears in people's minds. As a kid, I never wore a cycle helmet when I got on a push bike. I never put a seatbelt on when I was a kid in a car. Now, if you said that to younger people today, they'd look at you a bit askance and say, well, that's madness, isn't it? I think as a society generally, this may become common currency. Single use. Most of the smoke hoods that you can use are single use. Claustrophobic to use. Hands up if you've ever put a smoke hood on. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Not everybody's cup of tea to put one of these on. Certainly. I can get off now.
So you may not be that comfortable about putting one of these on. Firefighters in the room, if you're sent up into the search zone above the fire and you're wearing breathing apparatus, and I'm going to use this mythical character of Mrs. Miggins, elderly lady, and you're going to go and knock on her door while you're wearing BA and tell her that she's going to have to leave, and she opens the door and there's Darth Vader. She's going to have to leave. Follow me now. Hold her hand. Does that sound right to everybody? Doesn't sound right to me. But these are a bit claustrophobic to wear and to use, right? This is a filtration site. It may lead to unsafe behaviour. I mean, there may be, somebody might be thinking that they're a firefighter and they can start running around the building doing rescues, etc. And it could lead to some incorrect risk transfer. We don't have to put sprinklers in the building because everybody's got smoke hoods. That would be an inappropriate outcome, I think, if we ever use these things. There are some risks, and this is a debate, this is a discussion. that we need to have about these things, because I can tell you that in large parts of the world, this is common practice to use these things. We don't do that necessarily here. And I'm just asking, we should have a debate about it. If we are going to do it, which one is best? From my research and talking to colleagues around the world in the network, 4 basic approaches. You can share the firefighter's BA set, a filter, a rebreather and stored air. So this is Michael Reich, who's a fire chief in Germany. He's the guy that invented the smoke curtain that Ben showed earlier on. This is a photograph from one of his presentations. So this is a bunch of firefighters in Germany, and you can see that they're wearing breathing apparatus, but they're connected. All the people in the yellow hoods are the people that have gone into the building to bring out of the building. And what they've got is the facility to run a hose off their own BA set and put a hose over the person's head, so that they're breathing off that firefighter's. Obviously, that is something that's relatively simple and straightforward to do. It's another bit of kit to carry. And there's limitations because you've got to stay pretty close to one another in terms of the hose length, etc. And I should imagine if you were somebody being led out of a building, you'd probably want to be pretty close to the firefighter anyway. So this is an option. It's used quite extensively in Europe, and it's something we could potentially consider. I'm fairly certain that this is not in use in the UK at the moment. It's not common practice in the UK to use this kind of additional. Now, clearly, if we do this, then you're then breathing off the same cylinder, so you know the capacity of that cylinder is reduced already, and we've heard that earlier on. Before COVID, I was lucky enough to work in several places across China, and for an American company, and so we stayed in kind of like 4-star hotels across China, 3 or 4-star hotels. Everyone, and this is across China, by the way, every hotel room I went in, when I opened the cupboard in my bedroom looking for the minibar, what was on the wall? Two smoke hoods and a torch. In every hotel I went in. In Japan, certainly in Tokyo, in office buildings, when you're a new starter, you get given a new starter pack, and inside one of those is a smoke hood. So all I'm trying to raise here is a discussion about, they seem to think it's a good idea. Now, you can make comments about quality of these products, etc., but nevertheless, they are in use and they are widespread across Asia, certainly. So we've looked at connecting to the firefighter's BA set, and then we've looked at the filtration type mask. So this is a filtration mask, so you're going to be drawing the air, the smoke, the toxic fumes, etc., through this filter, and this filter will filter out certain of those products. Okay? Not all of them.
Sorry, I don't understand.
So the air goes through here. What I'm saying is this is an open system. You're open to the atmosphere, and you're reliant on the filter to filter out some of the nasties. Okay? Now,
15-minute use, Russ, as well.
yes. Yeah. This is a company in the Middle East, and they've developed what they call, now this is a stored air supply. So if you like, there's a micro cylinder, and you're breathing compressed air. So you put like a snorkel mouthpiece in your mouth, and you're breathing off to us. This is a closed loop system.
The Escape Air Vest, EAV, the life jacket for buildings. Introducing the EAV. The EAV is a purpose-designed vest which provides the user with on-demand breathable air to aid their escape from incidents involving fire, gas, or where breathing is difficult. Before wearing EAV, check that the pressure gauge is above 200 bar. Check whistle is in working order. Check torch is in working order. Ensure nose clip, safety glasses and glow sticks are in place. Check lanyard. The wearer should control their breathing in an emergency. Put your EAV on first before helping others. Ensure the vest is comfortable. Remove the safety glasses from the pocket and fit over your eyes. Fit the nose clip on your nose. Remove the hygiene bag off of the mouthpiece and fit the mouthpiece into your mouth. Breathe in a controlled manner taking deep breaths and hold for a second or two before exhaling slowly.
I've got no shares in this company, by the way, but I'm just saying that this is one option. Right, the fourth option, so that is a closed circuit system. You're only breathing off that, but obviously it's limited. The fourth one is a rebreather. So this is an example of a rebreather. This is made by a Ukrainian company, manufactured in Turkey. You don't mind if I don't put this one on? Right. Okay, so when you open this bag will deploy, and you'll breathe through here, through this, which is basically a filtration system, and it generates its own oxygen as well inside here. So you can breathe through this. This bag will partially inflate, and it's a closed loop system, so you're not ingesting any air at all. So this will last 30 minutes when you're breathing through it. It gets hotter because you're recirculating your own air. But if you had to sit and wait for rescue, this can give you up to 90 minutes over your head. So this is a rebreather system. So what I've described to you is four different: sharing the firefighter's BA set, the filtration system, the stored air system, and this is called a rebreather. Both of these retail cost around £200, something like that. You wanted to buy one of these. So those are the four main types of mask, smoke hood, if you like, out there on the system, out there that are available. Okay, I need a volunteer now. This is a volunteer, somebody from a fire safety background who's willing to take part in a little thing with me. Okay, so this is the NFCC guidance for stay put. If there's a fire in your building but not inside your home, you are usually safe to stay in your flat unless the heat or smoke from the fire is affecting you. Firefighters in the room, happy that that's the kind of definition that we say? Okay, so I'm Mrs. Miggins, and I've got the body shape for it, okay? And you're the owner of the building, the responsible person looking after the fire strategy. I want you to explain that to me so I can understand it.
So if a fire happens, stay where you are and you'll be saved by somebody in the future.
Okay, so I've got to stay in my flat until somebody comes and rescues me, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, this bit down here, stay in your flat unless the heat or smoke from the fire is affecting you. What does that mean?
It's pretty vague, certainly.
Yeah, so
I'll just if you see it coming in, but yeah.
I want an understanding. What does that mean then?
You've got to stay there until you start asphyxiating, I suppose.
So I've got to stay in my flat till I'm coughing, or I can see smoke. What does it mean?
Don't know. Who wrote this? Yeah. So
anybody help him out? Because this is the advice. This is the advice we're giving people. Stay there till it's too late. Because this is what we're saying. This is what we're telling people, isn't it? Unless you're affected by fire is affecting you. What does that mean? It's nonsense, isn't it? So does it mean you can smell fire or combustion? Does it mean there's smoke passing the window? There's fire debris passing the window. The floor's getting hot. There's smoke in the corridor. General fire activity. I've got 10 fire engines outside. Does that mean, is that affecting me? Is this vague? Difficult to access? I think so. And this is what we're telling people to stay in their flat until. Now, they're not, are they? They're leaving. Now, if I was in Surfers Paradise and I had to leave and I opened the door and there was smoke in there, would I want a smoke hood? I think I would. What's the basis for you considering banning stay put if you're a resident in a building? And that's one of the telling things that I saw today and really sticking with me is, you know, one in four of us in urban environments, London, has a disability. And we've got a clear stated policy from the UK government now to push healthcare out into the community. So if I've got a 100-unit high-rise building, that means I've got 20 people in there who've got a disability. And that's not just a wheelchair, that could be somebody in a hospital-style bed. How are we keeping them safe when they're in those rooms? And how are we getting them out of the building is kind of my issue. How can we manage their use? So when should people don the hoods? Now, if everybody goes out and buys one of these things, once you put it on, that's it. You can't recycle it. That's it. It's done. If people are going to use these, when are we going to ask them to put them on? What training do they need? How do we manage the quality of the products? Because, as I say, the Draeger hood, that costs 200 quid. That one from China, you can buy off Amazon for £13. Educational guidance. I haven't got answers for you, but my conclusions is we should use smoke hoods to mitigate risk, especially when stay put fails. We need more research into the most suitable type. I suspect that the mid-ground in this would probably come down on a filtration type mask. And we need to engage with residents and ask them what they think. And is it something that they would want to invest in or use? And if we are going to do that, how are we going to do it? This is my opinion. I'd be delighted to know what others in the room think about this. I think that they are needed, given what I said earlier on. And I just want to say thank you to Draeger and Desager for donating those 2 samples so that I could illustrate my talk.